So, welcome to this really wonderful Wednesday session. I have a special guest, Teresa Montalvo. Halbo, gosh, I'm sorry, can't even talk. Yep, there we go. And I'm going to say just a little bit while we get people on because I don't want her talk interrupted. But we are going to have a really great discussion about no. And I'm so excited because Teresa has some great information for us, and she even has a really wonderful little exercise for us to do. So I just want to, before I introduce her, I'm just going to talk a little bit about that painfulness of no. And something that I've recently experienced has been so funny because, I always talk about no and how it's not a bad thing. But when we're in a situation like, so I recently, for those of you who know, I've been with my sister temporarily for the past year, helping her take care of my nephew. And last, I don't know, November or so, I decided, I should probably find a job, like, to try to sustain me a little bit here because Silicon Valley is very expensive. And I had people like my old bosses reaching out for me. I have all these excellent references. I have great experience. I was getting nothing, nothing. No, 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 constantly. I literally had a nervous breakdown at the end of last year. I was wrecked. I was just like, oh my God, at the lowest point I've been at. And then finally, I'm like, wait a second, pick yourself up, rub yourself off. And I realized I'm being given a gift. Why do I want to go work for some high powered person that's going to work me to death and bleed me dry when I don't really necessarily have to work? It was just something I felt like I should do. And once I let that go, I was like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. This feels better. I'm giving a gift that I can spend time with my nephew, that I have, freedom, that I have the ability to be in a place, with him and with my sister and help and be that support. And it's so rare. So, my no's were like, literally felt like I was going to die. And that's sometimes what happens with no. So I'm excited to, Teresa, I just want to just say welcome to a couple more people. Colette, welcome. We have Wilma is here. Welcome, Wilma. So good to see you on camera. We have Akiko is here. Great to see you. And I think I said hi to Liza and Dawn. Not sure if I said hi to you, but welcome everyone. So now I'm going to introduce Teresa Montalvo. And so Teresa is the owner of Unleash Your Peace business. She offers animal Reiki treatments and teaches animal Reiki and human sessions and teaches human Reiki. And she also teaches yoga, and she has some really great, interesting yoga offerings too. But I will let Teresa kind of explain things because I know that a lot of what I would say is kind of woven into her story that she wants to share with you. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Teresa. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I feel a part of this community. I'm usually lurking on the recordings because I'm usually working at this time of day. I'm in the Eastern Standard Time Zone, so it's really lovely. I can recognize some of your names. Hello, it's nice to see you and meet you. And I'm excited to be here. I'm coming in from Niagara Falls, Canada. So it's the unceded territories of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Attawandarak, and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. So I would also like to acknowledge and honor any land that you're joining us from today. So my name is Teresa, and I have co-founded, I guess, because it's really a full circle moment because I let my soul dog lead. And so she founded Unleash Your Inner Peace with me. And my love language is dog puns. I love language. So if some of the dog puns come out, it's a special love language to share with all of you. I think I'm in good company if some of them come out. Yeah, so all of this was as a result of meeting my soul dog. So she was an adult rescue dog from South Carolina. Her name is Gracie. And I realized that, and I say this lightly, that she loved me even more when I was doing my restorative yoga practices. And she was hanging around more. And I will say restorative yoga practices, like yoga also, can be highly meditative. So I was like, okay, this is interesting. She was on my mat, she was beside me, practicing alongside me. And I was like, okay, there's something to this. And I was doing my yoga teacher training, and my yoga mats would be at the front door, and she would block the front door every Saturday morning. And I was like, okay, like, come on. So, like, dog mom guilt is real, right? And so someone in my yoga teacher training class said, you know what, just teach the class that you want to teach. And I'm like, I want to teach a class where people can bring their dogs. Like, I commute during the week. I don't want to leave her at home on a Saturday morning. That's wellness too, being together. And so that's what we started doing together. We started Bring Your Dog to Yoga, and we taught at some parks. We taught at her daycare. And what was interesting to me was that, and this will apply to our animal Reiki practice, is that at least one person in every class would come up to me and say, Teresa, I didn't think my dog could actually handle a yoga class. Um, but once I calm down, my dog is like so zenned out right now. Whoa. So it was like, I didn't even have to say anything or do anything, but people were starting to make the connection of co regulation in a meditative space. So that was really beautiful. And we were able to give back to shelters. We did a lot of donations through that. And then Gracie, oh, my love, she ruptured her back knee ligament. So a very painful injury. And we had done everything for her with the vets. We were on a surgery waiting list because our specialists are a little bit north of here. And, someone had said somewhere that, Reiki is the last call that's made, but the first thing that helps. And I ended up I was talking to my friend, my Gracie was super depressed, and I was like, you know what? I don't know what to do with her. Like, I got nothing else in my back pocket. She's like, why don't you call my friend? She does animal Reiki. And I was like, okay, well, I'm into different modalities. I haven't explored that path, so sure. And sure enough, this person came over, and in a flash, Gracie was drooling. She was happy. She was like showing tummy time, like rolling on her back, which she doesn't do outside of, she didn't do unless my partner and I were there. And I was like, okay, this is magic. But the skeptic in me was like, you're going to come over in another couple days. I want to see like if this happens again. Is this just like a fluke? And the practitioner came over the next day, same thing. Gracie is like rolling around. She wasn't a drooler. She was happy. And I noticed that she had perked up after the first session. And when I took her back to the vets, I can't say that it was all Reiki, but she didn't need the surgery. Her knee ligament had healed. And the vet was like, I don't know what you're doing. It's kind of unexpected, but I'm going to cancel the surgery. The scar tissue was healed perfectly. I couldn't have asked for better healing here. Just keep doing what you're doing. So I was like, okay, I'm in. I have to learn Reiki now. And so I feel like Gracie has led me, to share all of these healing modalities with our community in a very warm and compassionate way with people and their pet parents. So that's how all of this has started. And when Gracie was in physical, she used to lay under the Reiki table and support with the healing, and it was really beautiful, and it helped her through her transition over the Rainbow Bridge. And then Reiki has also helped me with the pet grief and all of this. With it's all her legacy, which is a way that also supports me in the grief from her transition. So
Uh,
that is our Unleash Your Inner Peace story.
yeah, I love that so much. So how long ago was that you started this?
Oh gosh, that's a good question. We were doing Bring Your Dog to Yoga pre-pandemic. I
Okay.
feel like everything that's like the timeline I have in my brain now is like, was it before or after? So that's when that had started. And then yes, I went very yoga heavy for some time. And then I felt called to really move into the Reiki space. I had a lot of learning to do myself because that was new to me. And I had taken different classes and different styles. And I kept landing on Kathleen's page and kept like, oh, okay. I got to find the Canadian exchange to like, I kind of feel like the calling is there, but I'm not sure it's the right time yet. And then finally, the call was there where it was a yes, like a yes. Here we go. It's go time.
I love that. And I love too, and we're all here because we love animals. And like you said, your dog led you to something that you absolutely love doing now.
Yes,
So
it's a
I'm going
complete
to let you go on with this because you've got so much to share.
let.
So excited.
Yes, it's totally a let animals lead, and I never even would have guessed this. So it's an honor to continue all of these supports for our community. Yeah, so our special topic for today is the magic of no, rebranding no. So we're going to do a little work around this two letter word that is so powerful. And we're going to start. So, if you're an imagination kind of person, we have a couple of ways that we can approach this. I'm going to ask you to reflect on or tune in to your feeling or sensations in your body or automatic reactions when you hear or see or maybe stumble across a situation that's a no. And so sometimes I call them like green light, yellow light, and red light. And so the red lights on our path can, oh man, they can sting, right? And so even situations like I was just asking my partner the one night over text, hey, do you have hockey tonight? Because I can't keep track of his schedule. And the answer was no. And it came through, and I had a reaction to it. It was very interesting because really the no would have been great because he could help me walk the dogs. But I was like, oh, I'm going to explore this no a little bit more because this is like, there's not like nothing attached to this situation at all. So if you take maybe 2 to 3 quiet breaths through the nose with a nice long exhale, just imagining any sticky points, kind of like a sand timer, just rolling down from the crown of your head, almost like a body scan through the chest, the hips, and the legs, and just settling in here. And if you're someone who likes to call on their imagination, can you imagine someone texting you just the word no? And then noticing their feeling or sensations in your body. And if you're someone who likes to reflect perhaps on a situation that has occurred, maybe a no from a shelter, or maybe something that didn't go the way that you wanted, can you tune into those sensations in your body? Where do you feel that sensation or that reaction in your body? And we have lots of tools that can help us with this. So if you're not like sensationing anything like anywhere, like there's no pressure, there's no right or wrong here. Some people like to use pendulums. Some people like to use oracle cards. Some people even will stand up with their body and say, show me a yes. So when I do that, my body rotates to the right. And when I say, show me a no, my body shifts from side to side. So there's lots of tools that we can use, even if inside today the body is quiet, no worries at all. And then in the chat, if you're comfortable sharing what you sensed when you felt no. So our words are vibrational. They carry a vibration.
Oh, I loved that. That was really, I felt it in my heart. Like that was immediately where I felt, when thinking about a no from a shelter, I felt it in my heart. And then Diane Donahue says she felt it everywhere. Laugh out loud. Yeah, it's weird. I hope other people will put in the chat, or we can even go to gallery and you can unmute and just share for a second about how you felt. Yeah, that was really interesting, especially just imagining a text saying no. It's like, no to what?
Right.
And then
And
Jimmy said she felt it in her heart. It's something I wanted, like a volunteer at a shelter. Gut, if, got to see. Oh, we got more in here. So she said, gut, if something like losing a job, getting fired years ago. Yeah, definitely. And so who said felt it in her gut. Colette said gut. Dawn said gut. Lots of guts. And Diane Malone said she felt it in her gut like a shock. And then Anne said, felt no in my gut, third chakra. And Carolyn said, sad. Yeah, right. And then Miranda said, in my head, I want to understand with my want to understand with my head, and only a no gives questions, right? Yeah, that's a really good observation, Miranda. I love
And given that our practice with Let Animals Lead method, it's very much rooted in mindfulness. So knowing that, because no works two ways, right? Like we're mostly talking about when we're receiving the no today, but no can also work in the other way where you're outputting the no. So if you're feeling that or sensing that in your body, know that you can set that boundary as well. That can be a no outgoing for you.
Mhm.
But it's not a surprise. I felt, and everybody will feel this differently. I felt the no in my gut, and I was like, wow. I felt my shoulders like coming up. I felt my like almost like my blood was boiling, and it was very interesting because I was like, it's just no. It's just no, and he can help me walk the dog. So like, what's happening here? So with a deeper investigation of the word no, no wonder why. So when I'm looking up the root meanings of no in the dictionary, it's a negative used to express dissent, denial, and refusal. Ouch, right? So no can carry not only our past experiences, but no can have this vibration as well. It's used as an expression of disapproval. Like I'll be vulnerable here. I'm always working on worthiness. Disapproval, just like whoa, it cuts right to it. Disapproval, shock, disbelief, dismay. It's used to give a negative response. It's used as a determiner when we think about abundance. No puts us in lack as well. So it's kind of it's not a it's ooh, someone's had something in the chat here. Leah, are you able to pop in the chat?
Yeah, it's Cherise, and she said I had a very weird concept come up for the first time. Is it no N-O or is it no K-N-O-W? And this
Yes.
provided a sense of openness. Maybe the no is teaching me something. Absolutely. And we're going to go into a little bit of that, aren't we?
Yeah.
About that. So yeah, I love that.
I love language and wordplay and digging deeper with that, the spelling and the meanings. Um, yeah, so we can with that vibration, of course we would have that gut feeling or that heart feeling. And then an interesting experience can also be, where is that yes? And knowing that when we get our no's, that it's not always a disapproval of ourselves, and we can go like we can get a no, which is a sliver of truth, right? It's something that happens, but the human brain, bless it, likes to make stories up. It likes to try and make sense of this sliver, this two-letter word, no. It will try and make up stories about it. And so we have, when we're thinking about our precepts, and I'm going to lean into some worthiness here, we can have lack on one end of the stick and disapproval on our worthiness stick, and then we can also overexert sometimes with ego, right? And so when we go back to our precepts, because when we're in the Reiki space, we can take those guidelines and those foundations out into our everyday life too, and live those. And I think that was the intention from the earliest times. And so here, when we have this no reaction from a place of lack, from a place of disapproval, or, for me, I experience it as unworthiness, and the stories that I tell, we can lean on those precepts and be like, well, wait a minute, just for today, oh, I won't worry. I won't have to be like master controller of the universe, because I'm not. And worry is a control function. And it also insinuates that I can do something about this situation. Okay, so any of this worry doesn't really have an impact except maybe stressing out my nervous system.
Mhm.
And so just for today, I don't have to carry the anger or, hold on to that fear. So our precepts can help us here on this side. And then it can also help us when we are using all of those external factors of success for our worthiness. And we can also recall, oh, yes, just for today, I will be humble. And it puts us back into the middle space here, the all is well space. It puts us back into the space of curiosity. It puts us back into the space of non judgment, which is our Reiki practice. We don't go into our animal Reiki practice with expectations. We don't judge the no's that we get from our animals. So we can take all of this as foundation, our practice and our practice as us in our lives as well when those red lights come up. And we can think about them as red lights too. I don't know. As a commuter, like I don't go through, but I stop at many red lights, but I don't assign meaning to them. It's just a red light. And so using those precepts when I was reflecting on the vibration of no, I think can help root us in our daily lives as well.
Well, definitely. And even the red light, the no is a protection, right? So a
Yeah.
lot of times, no's, like what I was sharing earlier, when I'm getting all of these no's and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is a no to me personally, it's actually the universe saying, no, you don't need to do this. So at red light, it's like, no, you can't go forward. You're going to get in a wreck, or whatever else those no's can do. They help guide us to a better place. But I want to read just a couple of comments. Wilma wanted to know, and we'll get to this in just a second, how does one handle silence? Not a yes, not a no, silence. And then Anne said, if people say no to us, we can remember we are a mirror for others. So no, KNOW, can be a yeah to ourselves. So when we're saying no, right, I love that, we're actually saying yes to ourselves. And that is so incredibly powerful. As far as silence go, Wilma, I don't know if you want to say something about that, Teresa, or not. Um, that's a little different when you're getting silence. And I'm assuming you're talking like when you're talking to somebody or you're trying to get something from somebody and there's silence. And silence is okay too. I mean, everyone has choice, right? Everyone, if they choose not to speak or they choose not to do that, just try not to put anything into that. And I don't know if you want to say something about that, Teresa, as well.
I think that that's where the curiosity comes in. And maybe perhaps asking questions like silence could be in a face-to-face interaction, but it can also be an online interaction, like not receiving an email back and assigning meaning to that too. Did
Mm-hmm.
you want to elaborate in the chat?
Yeah. Oh, Wilma says, I have asked questions and I still get silence. And I would take that, if that were me, I would be taking that as, you know what? There needs to be space. It's almost like let animals lead if you're like being ignored. And that's okay because we can't force our agenda on somebody else, be it an animal or a person. We have to respect the fact that they don't want to engage. And, we, especially, I mean, I'm really opinionated. So it's like, I have something to say. And my poor nephew, he's like, I don't want to hear this right now. And I have to respect that, right? I mean, obviously, he's not giving me silence. He's telling me straight out, I don't want to hear this right now. And even though I have this in my head, this needs to be said, I need to respect him. And it's same with like animals. If an animal says no or backs away, we have to say, oh, okay, I'm not going to force myself. And Teresa, I don't know if you want to say something about that. And then we have a couple more chats.
I think it's a beautiful way. The theme of today is seeming to unfold how our animals are leading us in our Reiki practice. And then also, how can we take our Reiki practice into our everyday interactions? And what can we, what's the word? Put together from all of those interactions.
Yeah, definitely. And so yeah, Wilma, so I would just treat whoever is giving you silence like you would an animal and say, okay, that's okay. You have choice. And then Carolyn Drew said she loves it's just a red light analogy. I love that too, right? Don't put meaning to it. It's just a red light. It's okay. So yes,
Yeah, and
let's
there are lots of things that like when I was just reflecting and thinking about this, I was thinking about, pick something that's meaningful to you. If you like to bowl, there's those bumpers come up and so your ball doesn't go in the gutter, for example. It's just a redirection, or there are many different examples with the path of least resistance, swimming upstream, or pebbles in the river, all of those things. So if you pick something that's close to you, um, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I
Mhm.
love that. And Teresa, I would really like to hear more because as a business owner, oh wait, Diane Malone says, like in real estate, we learned each no is one closer to the yes. Just keep going. Absolutely, right? And we're going to talk a little bit. If you read the story about Sarah Blakely, who designed Spanx, she has a great story about how many no's that she received and how hard it was for her to find somebody to even make her Spanx. And then when she had her Spanx made, or had her Spanx made, how hard it was for her to get into stores. But no's are learning tools too. They make us stop and reflect on what we're asking or what we're doing. We have to, like, again, go back to our practice, right? Where those precepts really give us that intuition for ourselves. So we can stop and say, and look at something like I shared, I was really depressed at the end of last year. But when I stepped back and took myself out of it and looked at my situation, I could go, okay, through the eyes of the precepts, this is something that's happening for me, not to me. Right. So initially, I think we want to say, oh, something bad is happening. This is happening to me. But a lot of times it's happening for you, for your growth, for your higher purpose. And I know, Teresa, as a business owner and somebody who started their own business, I'm sure you went through a lot of this, a lot of no's, a lot of closed doors. Could you kind of talk a little bit about that?
Oh yes, can I ever? It's what happens. It's all learning, and it's small business. It's my love, my Gracie's legacy. So I have a day career as well. Um, so I think in particular to, I think something we can all connect to is reaching out to shelters. Maybe I'll share that. So the very first shelter I reached out to was a shelter that I had a connection through Bring Your Dog to Yoga. And I also had connections to people within the shelter. And I had messaged them saying, hey, I'd love to come in. I've updated, I've been teaching and facilitating like people Reiki for years, and I've updated the animal practices. It's so ethical. There's some really great parts to this. It'll be amazing for shelter animals. Let me know if you're interested. I'd love to set up a chat or something. And so, speaking of the silence and the patience, I still haven't heard back from them. It was last year. And so I did take that as a no. And at the same time, my yoga classes weren't filling the way that they usually had. And I was in really great flow. I even had, yeah, like a lot of asks coming in that I also couldn't fulfill due to my like day career. So I was like, okay. And then all of a sudden it just stopped. And so that no for me turned into a storytelling first, but with our mindfulness practice and curiosity, it's like, okay, why not just rest? Why not just take this time and rest a little bit and fill up? Because I could feel in my body as well, my cup was not full. And I do love the saying, the overflow is for everybody else. So fill your cup and then the overflow. And I didn't have overflow, and I didn't have a full cup for myself and my family. So I took a rest, and I waited it out, and I thought, okay, we'll just see. Still nothing, still nothing. It's like, okay. So around the new year, I started perking up a little bit. I was still hibernating because I still needed that. But I thought, all right, you know what? Maybe I'll try a different approach. So I went back online. We have multiple shelter networks, SPCAs, et cetera, in the area. And I just kind of settled in, and I scrolled through the different shelters and just tuned into my body looking for my yes. So my yes is like a sunshine at my heart. It's an expansion for me. It's kind of like a Care Bear stare from the heart. And as I was scrolling through, I really felt strongly pulled. I kept on feeling yes to this one shelter, but it was the furthest one away. And being in Canada and Ontario in the winter, it also had the worst highway that I just don't enjoy driving in winter weather along. And I just felt compelled. I was like, no, I really feel this is my yes. So I reflected on how I approached the first shelter. And I was like, all right, I'm going to give myself a little bit of street credit here. And I have this new brochure from Leah, this PDF. I'm like, you know what? This has got to look professional, because I've also, in the last couple of months, done a lot of unlearning around Reiki, because I've ran into people who have had less than favorable human Reiki experiences. And I had to do a lot of unlearning about what Reiki actually is. Because no wonder why I was getting side eyes when, if those are the experiences that some of the folks had had. And so I had given myself a little bit of street credit. I was like, oh, I'm Teresa. I'm an educator in the public school system. I teach at the local university. So I like name dropped, so I'm not like out there or anything. I'm someone this is the work that I've done before with the SPCA, with the Bring Your Dog to Yoga. I've had 6 shelter pets myself. This is how they've responded. And this is actually how we found Animal Reiki. And then I had also offered to do a fundraiser for them as an online yoga class. So it was kind of like a 2-parter. And then I said, your shelter staff can join for free. Just come. It's just like good well-being practice. It's like a meditation. Your shelter volunteers, send out the link, no problem. They can come too, and I'll, wrap up most of the proceeds and, send them your way. And so I also had to wait. So the patience piece, I was about a week later, and I was like, oh, you know what? If I'm going to do this yoga class, I need at least 2 weeks for it to fill, because otherwise, like, you need to get the word out. And so I was like, well, maybe that's my soft approach of just a gentle nudge. And so I emailed again and just said, hey, like, I know the emails, you probably have a lot of emails. I just wanted to ask you officially if I could use your logo. I'd really love to donate the proceeds back to you, whether you choose to, whether you're open to Animal Reiki or not. It's my integrity to ask to use your logo, because I'd like to donate the proceeds. And within, I don't know, it was like not even 5 minutes, I got an email back saying, oh, yes, you can use our logo. Here's our socials person. And are you looking to do Animal Reiki with the animals in our care? And so I was like, yes, I am. I'm, this is, I reattached the brochure, like, yeah, if you're interested in learning more about, I really feel strongly about how ethical this system is. It's different from the ones that I've been taught before. And I think it's really respectful to shelter animals. I feel like any stress relief with a human in the shelter, I think, is a positive experience for them. And she's like, okay, tell me when you want to start. What day do you want to come in? Yes.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. But I love how and now, I mean, a lot of people are like, oh, yeah, but I'm not an educator. I'm not all these things. But you can still do it in a different way. You can say, I am a rescuer of this many shelter animals, or I have this experience, or I have been, in the Shelter Animal Reiki Association for however many years, whatever it is, whatever is your kind of, like you said, like your proof of who you are, or oh, and I'll get to that in just a second, Carolyn. But just like kind of laying that groundwork, and then like, and this is what Carolyn says, a fundraiser is such a great way to make a connection and build your relationship from there. Absolutely. And if you're thinking, well, what kind of fundraiser could I do? You could do a bake sale. You could do just a meditation circle, right? Have people come in for the meditation circle and have them pay, and like 100% or whatever percentage goes to the shelter. I think that those are great ways. And I love how you gave that soft nudge that, hey, I'd like to use your logo. That was really powerful. I've never even thought about that. So Teresa, yeah, I don't know if you have more to say about that.
And it's going fantastically well. Like, it's just, it was totally the right shelter to connect with. I've invited the staff because I work in the enrichment room. I'm usually there for about 4 or 5 hours every Saturday. And I said, like, you can peek in the window because when I first came in, they were kind of like sizing me up, not really sure. And I was just very reassuring. You know, they'll be playing because there's 3 bins of toys in the room. So they might be playing, and that's okay. You might see them sleeping beside me. You might see them on my feet. You might see me on the floor. You might see me on the couch. But when we're actually in the Reiki space together, it looks just very much like me meditating. It's kind of boring actually, but you can watch and check in. And staff and volunteers do check in the window.
I
They
love.
do. They're very curious, and uh, they. I also had kind of like a, not a mascot is the wrong word, but I did have one of the animals who truly led the Reiki show there, where she actually meditated with me for 97 minutes because I forgot to set my timer. And her walker was getting ready and they were like, okay, we need to like close the session soon. I was like, oh, okay, all right, we got to close up. And she slept for the rest of the afternoon, which was very uncharacteristic. She's quite a diva, and she actually was adopted recently too. And they saw the changes in her immediately with my very first customer, so it was really really something.
Oh my gosh. Well, congratulations. That's always such a good feeling too, when the animal you're working with gets adopted, and especially quickly too. And of course, we don't ever like to say, "Oh, this is just because of Reiki." It's because the Reiki helps uncover their true light, and the adopters can see who they truly are. And I love that so much. So what is the kind of energy now from the staff about you coming and sharing Animal Reiki?
They have a lineup for me ready on Saturdays now. So that's kind of neat. And they have the room ready for me, but I've also been very flexible because in the shelter things can get busy, or there was a very sick animal, or a dog in the enrichment room. So, sometimes like I ended up out in the courtyard. It was a really cold Canadian courtyard day. So I do have a lot of flexibility with them, and I just come prepared for anything and to work anywhere. And it's also great for education too around what Reiki is, how Reiki can support. When they come into the room after, they feel the energy and the heat, and they're like, "Oh, the heat's not on in here. Like, what's going on?" I'm like, "Well, energy is energy," and I have had a no as well. So I think I heard on one of your calls that if you haven't had a no from an animal yet, you've got to practice even more. So I did have a no, and it was okay. And it was a beautiful experience to approach with curiosity and without judgment. And yeah, so I've had lots of really neat experience as well. Did you want me to talk about
Yeah,
any?
please. I mean, we're all here because this is what we love to do. So please.
Yeah, and I do want to really give you, Leah and Sarah, a shout out because I really felt like the second time I approached this second shelter, like I felt very well equipped. I
Okay.
felt very professional with the materials that were available. I felt like I even listened to some of the calls on the way in. So I think one was like, what is shelter Reiki like? Or what is Animal Reiki like in a shelter? And there was a 2-part series that you did. And I just felt so prepared. It was so helpful. Like, oh, this is a jumpy husky. Okay, well, that's not great for adoption either. So I've been around enough dogs to know the body language that I could use, and then facilitated Reiki standing up. And it was a beautiful session. So all of these calls, all of the materials, like I really felt like the brochure, whether it's a lot of pages or fewer pages, I felt like that gave a sense of professionalism, but also gave me the confidence to be like, yeah, actually, I can do this. Like, this is what we do, and this is helpful, and um, it's something that's not so out there. It's very,
Yeah,
very
I'm
professional.
so
So,
glad to hear that. I'm so happy to hear
yeah.
that. And I was
And
talking
so,
Teresa earlier, just really quickly about the brochure since you mentioned it. I was talking to Teresa earlier, and Nancy Crow, who is just a very valued member of Sarah, she has advised me to cut it down to make it shorter so that, because shelters are busy, right? And so we will be editing that. But I'm so happy to hear that these calls and that brochure helped you. And I'm sorry, and I interrupted you. So go
No, not at all. It's a conversation for
on.
everyone. And so even in working with new animals, so some of you, I've had cats and dogs and different animals throughout my lifetime, but with my dogs, I really haven't had experiences with bunnies. Like I'm usually trying to shoo my dogs away from bunnies. So they had one really withdrawn bunny that came into the shelter. And I've had colleagues who have bunnies and they've told me about all the like nibbling that they do and how smart they are. And so to be completely vulnerable, I know it's a bunny and they're really cute, but I was really nervous. And this bunny was also very withdrawn, very scared, very shy, very nervous. You could tell the nervous system was in flight, fright, freeze mode. It was, and so I thought, okay. And they had the bunny in the puppy pen just to try and get it to maybe move around a little bit more because it was just like laying to its side. And so I thought, you know what? Like I have all the training. Like I've done let animals lead. I thought back to the calls and remembered, tips and tricks that you've shared. And I thought, you know what? I remember you saying that, thanking the animal for being a teacher. And I thought this is a great teachable moment for me. And so I approached the pen and I was a little unsure. And I kind of made myself small in the corner and really moved slowly. And then I started out by thanking the bunny, like, thank you. You are my teacher. I've never worked with a bunny before. And now, with working with you, if you want to join me in the Reiki space, then that means that I might be helping other bunnies too. And this is your legacy. Like, you're the teacher in charge of all of this. Like, wow, thank you. And so I went through my regular kind of spiel. And I kind of lose track in the Reiki space, but I'm guessing it was probably within 15 minutes the bunny was in my lap.
That's so sweet. Oh my
Yes.
gosh. How powerful.
Yes. Yes. And so the shelter staff was extremely concerned about this bunny. And like they were kind of looking in to see, like, ooh, like, is there any movement? Because I could just tell from the rapid breath, but also the frozen body. And I was like, okay, we're just the Reiki space, just us with you, my little teacher. And it was such a beautiful moment. Um, the bunny jumped around a little bit more, snuggled up against my arm, and then kind of hopped off a little bit when towards the end of the session, drank, and then did the little cute thing that the bunnies do. And I was just in awe and so grateful for that teachable moment for me. And then when I went back the following week, it did nibble on my shoelaces a bit, and we had a little bit of a laugh.
Oh my God, I love that so much because that is such a perfect example of the power of, letting these animals know that we are below them, that they are the ones that are in control, that they are the teachers, that they have the power to say no, right? That they have freedom of movement. And I love that. How did the shelter staff respond? Did anyone get to see that?
They had something else going on, but when I usually report back, like I'll say, because they don't have time, it's so busy,
Yeah.
right? So I'll tell them about a dog's favorite toy or, whatever, a preference that I may have noticed. Like one of the cats was really great with, slow movement and looked like she was bonding with another cat. So, you know, all those types of things. But I said, oh yeah, like the bunny was in my lap within, I think, 15 minutes. The bunny was and the bunny hadn't moved since they came in. So for them to hear that, they were just like, oh, because they want also the bunny to be adoptable and find their home sooner rather than later. And if they're frozen in fear, that can hinder that process and delay that process for them. And so even the second week when I went back, the bunny was hopping around a little bit, showed me their toy, and then rested with me for a little bit too. So
Oh my gosh.
it's such a beautiful experience.
It really is. And that's why we always encourage people, go to your shelter. It's such, I mean, they always need volunteers, and it's such an expansive practice for us, to be able to sit with all these different types of animals and learn from them. Because, like you had the jumping husky, and that's one type of meditation, or you're in the enrichment room, and that's another type, or you're with the bunny, and that's a completely different type as well. Even though, we're doing the same thing, it's just different situations, but that flexibility of our practice is so important. I just love that. Teresa, this has been so informative. And I don't know if you want to share anything more just about No or about the shelter.
Um, I'm so grateful for this method of working with animals. I can't see and I've reflected so much because Let Animals Lead has impacted my human practice as well, big time. So the Reiki space is extremely meditative. People are usually snoring within 3 minutes. It's very restorative. It's really something else, and I find that my human brain wants to make meaning out of things, and this practice has really rooted me into mindfulness without judgment and without um, any of those storytellings. And even though my brain still goes there, because it's a human brain, it still does. But the way that I'm able to notice it and call it out with compassion has been a wonderful learning in this practice. I think it's made me a better Reiki practitioner for humans as well as animals. It's made me a better Reiki teacher for humans as well as animals. And I can't imagine in some of the ways that I have learned previously, like working with a one-eyed cat. She had just had her eye removed for surgery, and she was so scared. And when I entered the room, the assistant was like, "Watch your ankles." I was like, "How am I going to leave this room? Like, what's going to happen in here?" Okay. And I thought, man, if I had approached this situation in a different way that I had learned in previous years, I may have had to watch my ankles or my hands or my arms. And I thought, like, wow, it was so powerful to just be in the corner and move slowly and sit on some blankets while she was on the other end of the room, and just to give her that experience of trust building with a human. So even like there's just so many beautiful things to Let Animals Lead that really I couldn't have done any of this in a productive way or a supportive way, or had the impact that I perceive to be there, without these ethics and principles.
Yeah, and I love that because you had learned a different way, and you're experiencing firsthand how this way of letting the animals lead is just so much more powerful, even though it feels so passive, right? You're sitting in the corner, you're just meditating, you're like, oh, how can this be? And there's a lot of power in putting your hands over something or beaming energy. You feel like you're doing something, but
Mhm.
all we're doing is making the situation worse.
Yes, and you said something in the brochure that really stood out to me. You said that we are sharing Reiki versus like two Reiki.
Mhm.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was really powerful, I thought.
Well, and hopefully the shelter thought that as well. Now, I know we're coming to the end here, and I want to open it for questions, but we always close with the meditation. I know I didn't ask you to do this, Teresa, but I didn't know if maybe you'd be open to doing the closing meditation, because I loved how you led our practice. You have a beautiful voice, but no pressure. I can do it. I just thought maybe I would offer that to you.
Are you wanting a Reiki meditation,
Yeah,
or are
just
you?
whatever meditation you want to do. Just the last 5 minutes of the class here, we'll just stop and do a little meditation, however you want to lead, whatever kind you want to do.
Okay. All right. Well, I might go off script a little bit,
That's okay. You can do it.
and maybe we can tune in with our heart animal today. Is that good?
That would be great. And let's just open it up. Does anyone have any questions or observations for Teresa or anything that they would like to ask her before we go into our meditation? And you can just unmute or you can raise your hand if you want, or you can put something in the chat. Nobody has questions? This was such a great talk, Teresa. I absolutely loved it. It was just such a reminder of why we do the things we do. Oh, and Liza, did you want to talk, Liza? Did you have something to say? See, she's leaning forward here to unmute. No, okay, no, she didn't. All right, then. If no
I
one
lost screen for a minute. Sorry.
Oh, okay, that's okay. If no one has any other questions for Teresa, and Teresa, I cannot thank you enough for this. This was really, really wonderful. Colette says thank you. This was a really wonderful reminder to get out into the shelter, and that no isn't that bad, right? No isn't. I love Sharice's just mind-blowing KNOW. That was beautiful. Thank you so much, Sharice. And Diane Donahue said, thank you so much. So yeah, this was really, really beautiful. I think we all enjoyed this. And I can't wait for people to listen to this on the replay as well. And then, yeah, and then we have Carolyn says, oh, here they all come. Beautiful session.
Oh, thank you,
Canadian.
Mama.
And then Gabby says, I love yoga with animals. We start with the meditation and they all join. Wilma says, thank you so much, Teresa. Ann says, it was lovely, so helpful. T says, great, love your energy, Teresa. Thank you for a great presentation. Liza says, thank you so much, Teresa, such wonderful teaching. And Gabby says, thank you so much. So, and we'll also, I put a link to Teresa's website in the email that I sent out announcing this, and I'll also put it in the recap as well, because you might want to reach out and contact her. So Teresa, without further delay, I will turn it over to you to do our closing meditation. And thank you so much for that.
Okay, and sorry, the loud breathing in the background is my dog Cosmo. So this meditation will have a couple of pauses. So if your eyes are closed, know that we probably didn't end the Zoom call. There just is a pause just to listen inwards. And if there is just a sudden mute, it's probably my dog's barking and I don't want to startle anybody. I'm just going to let him outside while you make yourself comfortable in a seated position. Perhaps with your feet, four corners of the feet rooted on the floor, rolling the shoulders back and enjoying 3 breaths through the nose with an extra long exhale. Knowing that you are practicing here in a place of community with like-hearted souls, enjoying the breath, and starting with the crown of the head, invoking the image of the sand timer once more, releasing any tension from the crown of the head, smoothing the forehead, the space between the eyebrows, the left cheek, the right cheek, relaxing even the muscles of the scalp. Feeling relaxation in the throat chakra, releasing any words left unsaid, any no's left unsaid, releasing any tension in the shoulders, in the arms, in the hands, releasing any tension, just like the sand timer would drain towards the earth from the front chest, the shoulder blades, the 3D space that is you, the abdomen, the hips, both upper legs, lower legs, the big toe, second toe, third toe, fourth toe, and fifth toe. Inhaling the breath, enjoying the breath, filling the 3D space that is you. Exhale. Enjoying the light traveling from the crown of your head as you breathe in, down your hara line, all the way to the hara, your earth energy center. Inhaling the breath, inhaling the light, expanding the light throughout the 3D space that is you. Imagining now a beautiful spring day. Opening the door, feeling the warmth and the transition of this beautiful springtime energy. Stepping with one foot on the earth and then the other. Walking, feeling the support of the earth cradling you on the rich soil, and finding a space in a meadow, feeling the sun beaming down, continuing your hara breath. And as you rest, perhaps you notice a tree stump, a rock, or perhaps you seat yourself right on the earth. Grounded, expansive, radiant. And you travel now your awareness to your heart center. Spend some time in your heart center, inviting your heart animal to reveal itself to you. And perhaps as you explore your heart, it's quiet today, or perhaps you visualize yourself in that meadow with your heart animal approaching you. It might be one, it might be several. And as you share space with this heart animal, it invites you to ask a question just for you. Listening in the heart space. Thanking your heart animal for any messages or love received. Drawing your awareness back to your heart breath. Expanding the light in the 3D space that is you, much like that sand timer. And expanding it to the vicinity of all sentient beings. The next inhale, feeling the sensation of the Reiki space. And with your Reiki eyes, sending that Reiki space further out, perhaps to your country. We're all sentient beings. And now imagining the 3D space that is our planet Earth. With our next inhale, radiating the Reiki space with our Reiki love and our Reiki eyes through all of planet Earth to all of our animal loves and sentient beings. And with a bow of gratitude, we thank them for being our greatest teachers. Inhaling the breath and a long exhale, drawing your awareness back to this present moment. And just for today, I won't carry anger. And just for today, I will step off the rocking chair of worry. And just for today, I will chop wood and carry water. And just for today, I will embody compassion, first for myself and extend it to others. And just for today, I bow with so much gratitude to our community and all of our animal teachers. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Teresa. That was beautiful. That was such a beautiful meditation. I was so shocked at my heart animal. I love black crows. The crows never come to me. And even before you said to connect to them like that, they had come. And so it was really interesting and lovely. And I absolutely love that. And I just want to say quickly hello to Carolyn and Eddie and Monica and Alice. And Monica and Alice came late because in the US we had daylight savings time, so we threw it off. But be sure to listen to the recording. This has been an amazing call, an amazing call. It was just so full of information, and I'm so grateful to Teresa for coming. I cannot thank you enough, and I really hope that all of you kind of take her words and take that whole lesson about no and run with it, because it was so powerful. And I loved your explanation too about how being in that middle, right? The all is well. Don't stay at those two extremes of like the pencil. So thank you so much, Teresa.